Hoplite Epsilon 327, awakening sequence initiated. The robotic voice echoed in the dim chamber, pulling me from the abyss of suspended animation. My body felt like lead, my eyes fluttered open to a blur of cold, sterile light. The acrid tang of antiseptic filled my nostrils, a stark contrast to the scent of blood and sweat that was my last memory. Memories flooded back, the roar of the battlefield, the clash of bronze against alien steel, the desperate struggle for survival against an enemy that defied all human understanding. I was a hoplite, a warrior of the Spartan lineage, bred and trained for one purpose, to defend humanity against the onslaught of the xenoforms. But our valor had not been enough. We had been overwhelmed, outmatched, forced to make a desperate gamble. I remembered the chilling words of our strategist as we entered the cryo chambers: if we fail, if humanity falls, you are our last hope. Sleep now, warriors, and may the gods grant you awakening in a better age. The blur in my vision sharpened, revealing the sleek, metallic interior of the cryo chamber. My body, though stiff and aching, responded to my will. I pushed myself upright, the chamber hissing open with a pneumatic sigh. A figure in a white biohazard suit stood before me, their face obscured by a helmet. "Welcome back, Hoplite Epsilon 327, the figure's voice crackled through a speaker. "You have been in cryosleep for approximately 5 centuries. Humanity is in grave danger. We need your help." 5 centuries. The weight of time hit me like a physical blow. What had become of my world, my people? The figure led me through a sterile corridor, the walls lined with monitors displaying complex data and tactical maps. They explained the dire situation. The xenoforms had not been defeated, they had merely retreated, biding their time, gathering their strength. Now they were back, their forces more numerous, their technology more advanced. Humanity was on the brink of extinction, clinging to a few scattered outposts across the ravaged earth. Our only hope, they said, lay in the legendary warriors of the past, the Spartans awakened from their long slumber. I was led to an armory, where rows of gleaming weapons awaited. Not the bronze and leather of my time, but advanced weaponry forged from alien alloys, powered by exotic energies. I donned the armor, its nanofibers molding to my body, its systems integrating with my neural interface. The strategist of this new age, a grizzled veteran named Marcus, briefed me on the current tactical situation. The xenoforms were attacking a key human stronghold, a sprawling underground city known as Haven. Our mission was to reinforce the defenders, to hold the line against the alien onslaught. "The fate of humanity rests on your shoulders, Spartan," Marcus said, his voice heavy with the weight of responsibility. "We have studied your history, your tactics, your unwavering courage. We need you to be the shield that protects us, the spear that pierces the enemy's heart." I looked out at the assembled warriors, a mix of veteran soldiers and newly awakened Spartans. Fear and determination mingled in their eyes. I knew what I had to do. I was a hoplite, a warrior born and bred. And I would fight, as my ancestors had fought, to the last breath. "Spartans!" I raised my voice, the ancient battle cry echoing in the high-tech war room. "Tonight, we dine in hell." The warriors roared their approval, their spirits lifted by the familiar call to arms. We boarded the dropships, the engines thrumming with anticipation. As we descended towards Haven, the city lights twinkling in the darkness, I felt a surge of adrenaline, a primal thirst for battle. The xenoforms would learn, as they had learned centuries ago, that Spartans do not surrender. We do not retreat. We fight. And we win. The dropship lurched violently, alarms blaring as it pierced Haven's atmospheric shield. Through the viewport, I saw the city ablaze, xenoform flyers swarming like insects, their energy weapons painting streaks of destruction across the cityscape. We were entering a living inferno. The bay doors opened with a hydraulic groan, the roar of battle flooding the cabin. We charged out, weapons blazing, adrenaline pumping through our veins. The sight that greeted us was pure chaos. Human soldiers, clad in high-tech armor, fought tooth and nail against the alien horde. The xenoforms, a grotesque mix of insectoid and reptilian features, scuttled and slithered through the streets, their claws and energy blades tearing into flesh and steel. I raised my plasma rifle, squeezing the trigger. A bolt of superheated energy lanced out, vaporizing a xenoform warrior. Beside me, my fellow Spartans unleashed a torrent of firepower, mowing down the aliens with ruthless efficiency. Yet for every one we felled, 2 more seemed to take its place. A xenoform flyer swooped low, its energy cannons strafing the street. I dove for cover, rolling behind a wrecked vehicle as the ground erupted in a shower of molten metal. The air crackled with ozone, the stench of burning flesh thick in my nostrils. Epsilon 327, this is Strategos Marcus, a voice crackled in my helmet. We're losing ground. The aliens are breaching the inner defenses. You and your Spartans need to plug the gap. Reinforce the Omega sector. We're sending you coordinates now. I acknowledged the order, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. This was what I had been trained for, what I had awakened for. To fight for humanity's survival. I rallied my Spartans, pointing towards a massive blast door that led to the Omega sector. We sprinted through the hail of energy fire, plasma bolts sizzling past our heads. I felt a searing pain as a stray shot grazed my arm, but I ignored it, focused on the objective. We reached the blast door, its reinforced metal buckled and warped from the relentless assault. Human soldiers, their faces grim with exhaustion, fought desperately to hold the line. A xenoform behemoth, twice the size of a man, smashed its way through the breach, its mandibles dripping with acid. I roared a challenge, charging forward. My plasma blade ignited, its edge glowing white-hot. The behemoth turned, its multifaceted eyes gleaming with malice. I ducked under its flailing claws, my blade slicing through its chitinous armor. A noxious ichor sprayed from the wound, the creature screeching in pain. I pressed the attack, my Spartan training guiding my every move. The behemoth was strong and fast, but it was no match for my centuries of combat experience. I danced around its attacks, my blade finding weak points in its armor. With a final, desperate lunge, I plunged my blade into its thorax, piercing its vital organs. The behemoth roared one last time, its body collapsing in a heap. My Spartans had joined the fray, their weapons blazing. Together, we formed a wall of steel and fury, pushing the xenoforms back, inch by inch. The human defenders, inspired by our arrival, rallied with renewed vigor. For hours, the battle raged, a maelstrom of violence and carnage. I lost track of time, my senses overwhelmed by the sights, sounds, and smells of war. I fought with every ounce of my strength, my armor dented and scarred, my blade dripping with alien blood. Finally, as dawn approached, the tide began to turn. The xenoform assault faltered, their numbers dwindling under our relentless counterattack. They began to retreat, dragging their wounded and leaving their dead behind. The blast door was sealed, the breach secured. We had held the line. For now. I leaned against a wall, exhausted but exhilarated. My body ached, my wounds throbbed, but I had never felt more alive. I had fought alongside brave men and women, defending a world that was not my own, but had become my new home. As I looked out over the ravaged city, the rising sun casting long shadows over the debris-strewn streets, I knew that this was just the beginning. The war was far from over. But one thing was certain, humanity would not go down without a fight. And as long as there were Spartans to lead the charge, we would never surrender. The lull in the fighting provided a much-needed respite. Medics rushed to treat the wounded, their nano-healers working overtime to mend torn flesh and broken bones. I sat on a pile of rubble, my armor hissing as it repaired minor damage. The taste of victory was bittersweet, tempered by the knowledge that this was merely a temporary reprieve. As the sun rose higher, Strategos Marcus appeared, his face grim. Epsilon 327, I need you in the command center, he said, his voice tinged with urgency. We've received intel that changes everything. I followed him, a sense of foreboding growing in my gut. The command center was a hive of activity, technicians hunched over consoles, their faces illuminated by the glow of holographic displays. Marcus led me to a private room, where a large monitor displayed a series of cryptic symbols and alien glyphs. We've intercepted xenoform transmissions, Marcus explained. Our linguists have been working around the clock to decipher them. What they've found is disturbing. He paused, his eyes meeting mine. The xenoforms aren't just invaders. They're refugees. I stared at him, disbelief warring with curiosity. Refugees? I echoed. From what? Their homeworld was destroyed, Marcus said, his voice barely a whisper. By a force far more powerful, far more destructive, than anything we've ever encountered. A chill ran down my spine. What kind of force? Marcus hesitated, then said, they call it the Scourge. He showed me images from the xenoform transmissions, depicting vast, swirling clouds of energy, consuming entire star systems. Planets were reduced to molten slag, stars extinguished like candles. It was a vision of apocalyptic horror. The Scourge is relentless, Marcus continued. It consumes everything in its path. The xenoforms are fleeing, desperate to find a new home. They see Earth as their last hope. I was speechless. The xenoforms, our sworn enemies, were victims of a greater threat. But could we trust them? Could we believe their claims? Marcus seemed to read my thoughts. I know it's hard to believe, he said. But we have corroborating evidence. Our long-range sensors have detected anomalies in deep space, energy signatures consistent with the Scourge's descriptions. It's heading our way. I felt a knot tightening in my chest. How long do we have? Years, maybe decades, Marcus replied. But it's coming. And when it arrives, it will consume everything. Unless we stop it. A new mission, a new purpose, began to crystallize in my mind. We have to unite, I said, my voice firm with resolve. Humans and xenoforms. We have to fight together, or we will all perish. Marcus nodded. I agree. But it won't be easy. There's too much hatred, too much mistrust. We need to find a way to bridge the divide, to convince both sides that our survival depends on cooperation. I looked out the window, at the scarred landscape, the ruins of a once great city. We have to try, I said. For the sake of our world, for the sake of all sentient life. A spark of hope ignited within me. Perhaps, just perhaps, this revelation could be the catalyst for peace, for a united front against the ultimate enemy. But the path ahead was fraught with peril. It would require courage, diplomacy, and a leap of faith. The fate of two worlds, and possibly the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The revelation of the Scourge sent shockwaves through both human and xenoform ranks. Whispers of fear and doubt mingled with cautious optimism. The idea of a common enemy, a threat to both species' existence, was a seed of hope, but it needed to be nurtured carefully. Marcus and I, along with a delegation of human leaders and scientists, embarked on a diplomatic mission to the xenoform stronghold. The journey was fraught with tension, the air thick with the memory of centuries of conflict. As our dropship approached the xenoform compound, a sprawling structure of organic architecture and pulsating energy fields, I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. The xenoforms were known for their cunning and ruthlessness. Could we truly trust them? We were greeted by a delegation of xenoform leaders, their insectoid forms adorned with intricate bioluminescent patterns. Their leader, a towering creature with mandibles that clicked and hissed, introduced himself as Xenoprime. Greetings, humans, Xenoprime rasped, his voice a series of clicks and whistles that our translator devices struggled to interpret. We have received your message. We understand your concerns, your doubts. Marcus stepped forward, his voice calm and measured. We come in peace, he said. We have learned of the Scourge, the threat it poses to both our worlds. We believe that the only way to survive is to unite, to pool our resources and knowledge. Xenoprime tilted his head, his multifaceted eyes studying Marcus intently. Trust is a fragile thing, easily broken, he said. Your species has a history of aggression, of expansionism. Why should we believe you have changed? I stepped forward, my Spartan armor gleaming in the dim light. Because we are facing extinction, I said, my voice echoing with conviction. The Scourge will consume us all if we do not stand together. We have seen its power, its devastation. It is a force that transcends our petty conflicts. Xenoprime remained silent for a long moment, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Then, he extended a claw-like hand towards Marcus. We will listen to your proposal, he said. But be warned, we will not be easily swayed. We have been betrayed before. The negotiations were long and arduous, filled with tense moments and heated exchanges. But gradually trust began to build. We shared intelligence, technology, and strategic insights. We discovered that the xenoforms, despite their fearsome appearance, were a surprisingly adaptable and intelligent species. They had a deep understanding of hyperspace travel, a technology that could be crucial in our fight against the Scourge. They also possessed advanced energy shielding and weaponry that could complement our own. After weeks of intense discussions, an agreement was reached. A tentative alliance was formed, a pact of mutual defense against the Scourge. It was a fragile peace, but it was a start. As we prepared to depart, Xenoprime approached me, his eyes filled with a newfound respect. Spartan, he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. You have shown great courage and wisdom. You have helped to forge a path towards a better future. I nodded, feeling a surge of pride and hope. Together we can overcome any threat, I said. Together, we can build a new era of peace and prosperity. The journey back to Haven was filled with a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. We had taken a bold step towards a brighter future, but we knew that the true test lay ahead. The Scourge was out there, lurking in the darkness, waiting to consume us all. The war for survival had just begun. The fragile alliance between humans and xenoforms was tested almost immediately. Centuries of animosity and ingrained prejudices didn't simply vanish overnight. There were skirmishes, misunderstandings, and deep-seated fears that threatened to unravel our hard-won unity. My Spartans and I were tasked with leading joint patrols with xenoform warriors, venturing into the ravaged territories to scout for signs of the scourge. It was a tense and uneasy partnership at first. The xenoforms' alien physiology and behavior were unnerving, their clicking mandibles and multifaceted eyes unsettling to human senses. Yet, as we spent more time together, fighting side by side against mutated creatures and scavenging for resources, a grudging respect began to emerge. We learned to communicate, to anticipate each other's moves in combat. We discovered shared values, courage, loyalty, a fierce determination to protect our own. One day, while on patrol, we stumbled upon a xenoform hatchery, a hidden cabin where eggs pulsed with nascent life. I expected hostility, perhaps even an ambush. Instead, the xenoform warriors lowered their weapons, their mandibles clicking in what our translator interpreted as a gesture of peace. They invited us into the hatchery, showing us their young, explaining their life cycle, their hopes and dreams for the future. It was a moment of profound connection, a bridge built between two vastly different cultures. Back at Haven, scientists from both sides worked tirelessly to develop new technologies, to combine human ingenuity with xenoform knowledge. The results were astounding. New weapons emerged, capable of harnessing the power of both plasma and bioenergy. Shields were created, capable of deflecting the scourge's devastating energy blasts. But the most significant breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a young xenoform scientist named Xenozeta. She had been studying human history, fascinated by our ancient myths and legends. One day, she approached me with a startling revelation. "Spartan," she said, her voice filled with excitement, "I believe I have found a way to defeat the scourge. It lies in your ancient stories, in the tales of your gods and heroes." She explained that the scourge, while immensely powerful, was not invincible. Its energy was drawn from the life force of planets and stars, but it also had a weakness, a vulnerability to a specific frequency of energy, a harmonic resonance that could disrupt its core. The ancient Greeks, Xenozeta continued, believed that music had the power to move the gods, to influence the very fabric of reality. I believe they were onto something. If we can create a weapon that generates this harmonic frequency, we may be able to shatter the scourge's core, to neutralize its threat. I was skeptical at first, but Xenozeta's enthusiasm was infectious. We presented her theory to the scientists and engineers, who, after initial hesitation, agreed to test it. Using a combination of xenoform technology and human ingenuity, they constructed a massive sonic cannon, capable of generating a focused beam of harmonic energy. It was a gamble, a desperate hope, but it was our best shot. As the scourge's ominous energy signature grew closer, the tension in Haven reached a fever pitch. Humans and xenoforms worked side by side, preparing for the final showdown. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than expected. The scourge's vanguard, a swirling mass of energy tendrils, emerged from hyperspace, its tendrils reaching towards Earth like hungry tentacles. The sonic cannon, mounted on a fortified platform, roared to life. A beam of shimmering energy lanced out, striking the scourge's vanguard. The tendrils writhed and twisted, their energy fluctuating wildly. For a moment, it seemed to be working. The scourge's advance slowed, its energy waning. But then, it unleashed a devastating counterattack, a blast of raw energy that shook the very foundations of Haven. The sonic cannon's platform buckled, its structural integrity compromised. The beam wavered, its focus lost. And then, the unthinkable happened. The platform collapsed, the sonic cannon tumbling into the abyss. Our last hope was extinguished. Despair washed over me as the sonic cannon disappeared into the chasm. The scourge's energy surged, its tendrils lashing out with renewed fury. Haven's defenses buckled under the onslaught, buildings crumbling, shields flickering and failing. The evacuation order blared through the city's communication system. Panic gripped the populace as humans and xenoforms alike scrambled towards the escape pods and shuttles. I refused to give up. I rallied my Spartans, our faces grim but determined. We fought our way through the chaos, our plasma weapons spitting defiance at the encroaching darkness. Xenozeta, her face streaked with tears, stumbled towards me, her voice choked with emotion. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I failed. I thought I could save us all." I placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You gave us hope," I said. "You showed us a way to fight back. That is never a failure. We reached the central evacuation plaza, where the last remaining shuttles were preparing for liftoff. Marcus stood at the ramp, his face etched with the weight of 1,000 burdens. Epsilon 327, he said, his voice barely audible over the din of battle, you and your Spartans need to get on that shuttle. It's our last chance. I shook my head. I can't abandon this city, not while there are still people fighting. Marcus grabbed my arm, his grip surprisingly strong. This is a losing battle, he said, his eyes filled with pain. We need you to survive, to carry on the fight. You are our last hope. I looked around at the chaos, the fear in the eyes of the fleeing civilians. I knew he was right. But I couldn't leave without Zeta. She had risked everything to help us, and I wouldn't abandon her to the scourge. I'm not leaving without her, I said, my voice firm. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. Very well. But you need to hurry. The scourge is closing in. I found Zeta huddled in the crowd, her body trembling with fear. I took her hand, my Spartan armor providing a reassuring presence. Come with me, I said. We're getting out of here. We fought our way through the throng of evacuees, dodging debris and leaping over fallen bodies. The ground shook with the scourge's relentless assault, the air filled with the screams of the dying. We finally reached the shuttle, its engines already spooling up. Marcus stood at the ramp, a look of relief washing over his face as he saw us. Get on board, he yelled, waving us forward. We climbed the ramp, the shuttle's doors closing behind us with a final hiss. As the shuttle lifted off, I looked back at Haven, the city I had fought so hard to defend. It was now engulfed in the scourge's darkness, its light extinguished. A wave of despair washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by a burning determination. I would not let Haven's sacrifice be in vain. We would find a way to defeat the scourge, to avenge our fallen comrades. As the shuttle soared into the sky, leaving the ravaged earth behind, I glanced at Zeta, her eyes wide with fear and wonder. We were embarking on a new journey, a desperate quest for survival. And as I looked out at the vast expanse of space, a single thought echoed in my mind. The war for the galaxy had just begun.